for being here today. It is pool time. It's time for families to start using our community pools, but we know that Ken Cuccinelli has attacked the community pools in our state and around the nation, calling them a threat to the Liberty Pie. So I can just say personally, growing up, it was a pleasure for me to enjoy our community pool. It's the first place where I learned a lesson in courage and how to jump into that deep end and take a swim. And I know families in my neighborhood like their community pool for children who have actually physical ailments, and the pool is a place for them to exercise and for health reasons. So with that, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Scott Surovell.
Oh, thanks for coming today so we can educate you more about the views of the Republican gubernatorial nominee, Ken Cuccinelli. As you may know, he wrote this book, The Last Line of Defense, A New Fight for American Liberty. And as part of his book, he decided to take on the scourge of public recreation centers. And just to read from you one part of it, on page 241, he complains about the unfair competition created by government-owned recreation centers. He says, as a result of the unfair competition of the government-owned rec center, not only is the business person essentially prevented from doing his business, his liberty, his opportunity to pursue happiness is curtailed, but the citizens are also harmed because everyone has to pay for the rec center through their taxes, even if they never use it. In addition, the citizens may not get any competing local rec centers to move in and offer better equipment, better hours, or more customer service-oriented staff because few business people are going to build a recreation center when there's a possibility that the government could move in any time, unfairly compete, and put it out of business. That's what our governor says about community assets like this. I know the people I talk to believe that community recreation centers are assets to our community. There are reasons that people move to Fairfax County. I know, for example, at the one we're standing in front of here, Martin Luther King Jr. Pool here in Gum Springs. This is not a community that had a pool built like many of the other recreational facilities that the citizens put together in the other parts of my district. People in this community would not have the opportunity to swim or to use these fields if the government had not stepped in to help create these opportunities. And I think if Ken Cuccinelli had his way, most of my constituents, if they wanted to be able to recreate in a pool, would have to go swim at the Snakeheads in Little Honey Creek. And that, I don't think, is what our community is all about. Recreation centers are not an attack on liberty. They're not an attack on free enterprise. In fact, if you talk to Warren Sykens, who was supervisor in the late 1970s in Fairfax County, or Glenn Fatzinger, who was his Park Service representative, they will tell you that when the Mount Vernon Recreation Center was built in the late 1970s, they tried to get the private sector to construct a recreation facility and they wouldn't do it. They tried to get them to build an ice rink and they wouldn't do it. And so the government stepped in to meet that need. And the facility is self-sufficient. Most of these facilities are paid for with revenue bonds, which do not obligate taxpayers full faith and credit. They pay for themselves. And they are good community assets. They don't destroy liberty or the economy or anything of the sort. And Ken Cuccinelli's views on this, not only are they disturbing, they're simply radical. And they're way out of step with the people I know in this area. So hopefully the voters on Memorial Day will take note of his views, take notes of how radical his views are, and come November, they will express their views accordingly. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lee District Supervisor Jeff McKay, who's here as well.
Thanks, Scott, and I'm glad to be here this morning as well. As someone who's at a local government level, we oversee the parks in Fairfax County, and I can tell you our citizens feel very strongly that our parks are huge assets for our community. My daughter's with me here this morning because in a couple of weeks she'll be starting camp at Lee District Rec Center. And, you know, the opportunities that kids have in these facilities, you don't get a chance to do that over again. The Lee District Rec Center is one I've worked hard on to get new amenities established. And Delegate Herring hinted on this a minute ago. We have a facility at Lee District Park for children with intellectual and physical disabilities. they had no place to recreate. If it hadn't been for our county parks and recs, they would still have no place to recreate. So this is not about just providing opportunities for kids who might have financial need and for people in the community who can't afford to join a country club but actually want to go for a swim every once in a while. This is also about people in our community who have been overlooked in facilities, and the private sector just simply is not going to build those type of facilities. And there is a role for government in providing opportunities for our kids and for our seniors. If you go over to the Lee District Rec Center today, you'll see the pool is chock full of senior citizens who have lived in this county for a long time, have paid taxes, and are trying to stay healthy. And they can't afford to join a country club. They can't afford some of the things that other people in this county take for granted. And so our rec centers are a real point of civic pride in our community. They're a place where we have community events of all sizes. They're places where people gather to celebrate their neighborhood. And that's a fundamental way to build civic strength in a community. And so I've heard complaints about a lot of things over my years. I've never heard somebody complain about our parks and recs and whether or not we should even have parks. And if you read between the lines in what Ken Cuccinelli has said, this is an attack on some things that are treasured in Fairfax County and some things in my mind that are non-negotiable. We have a role to play to provide opportunities for people in our community, and if you talk to our residents, they're proud to stand by our parks and rec centers in Fairfax County. And so as we move forward to November, we have to keep in mind that these were not just passing words. These are, as Delegate Surovell read, right out of a published book of somebody who wants to lead this state. And if that leader is picking on rec centers and the kids and the seniors and the families in our community that use those rec centers, then you can only imagine what the next step is going to be. And that is so far out of touch and out of reality with the people I represent in Lee District, and it's quite frankly scary. So we need to spread the word in our community that those thoughts are out there, spread the word in our community of what type of threat has been leveled against some of the fundamental things we treasure in Fairfax County, and make sure people remember that come November. And so that's why I'm out here today to help spread that word, make sure people understand that this is a core value of Ken Cuccinelli's, and it's not a core value of the people I represent in Fairfax County.